Hello everybody, this is Gareth Cahoon Speaks back here with another video. I'd like you to hit the subscribe bar, give me a thumbs up if you like the video, or hit the notification bell to be notified when I post my next post, or otherwise you can look me up at my website or my ministry and the charities that I support at garethcahoon3@gmail.com on PayPal. The United States USS Liberty. Why anti-Semites keep on returning to a 6-decade-old military incident. Incident remains a favourite talking point for anti-Semites. The recent speech by US Representative Thomas Massie, Republican of Kentucky, calling on the government to launch yet another investigation of the Israeli strike on the USS Liberty during the Six-Day War, has brought attention back to one of the oldest conspiracy theories involving the Jewish state. It's my great honour, maybe one of the biggest honours of my lifetime, to stand here on the floor and do something that 59 years is 59 years overdue, to recognise the survivors and those who gave their lives on the USS Liberty. Republican Massey said on Monday, 59 years ago today, when they were viciously attacked by IDF jets, and also after that by torpedo boats. The attack on the USS Liberty took place on June 8, 1967, the third day of the Six-Day War. The USS Liberty, a non-combat signals intelligence ship, was assigned to collect and monitor electronic communications off the coast of the Sinai Peninsula. The vessel had several large antennas and specialised equipment for collecting signals intelligence, and was carrying a mixed crew of Navy personnel, US Marines and National Security Agency technicians. According to the US records, the ship arrived in its position north of the Sinai Peninsula on June 7th during active hostilities between Israel and Egypt. On June 8th, after a couple of Israeli planes completed a flyby over the vessel, it came under attack by Israeli forces, first being shot by planes and then hit by a torpedo boat. The attack resulted in the deaths of 34 crew members and injured 171 others. Shortly after firing on the Liberty, the torpedo boats seemed to have realised the mistake and offered to assist the stricken vessel. However, the captain of the Liberty refused the aid. The Israeli government later apologised for the attack, paying damages to the US government and the victims' families. The attack on the Liberty has become one of the most investigated friendly fire incidents in the past 100 years, with at least 10 US investigations and 3 more by Israel. Each probe produces a report concluding that the attack was a mistake, not a deliberate attempt to sink an American ship. Several reports say that the attack may have been the result of military phenomena known in the military as the fog of war, when critical information does not reach the units on the front lines that are making tactical decisions. However, in the decades since, the story of the USS Liberty has become a rallying point for critics and anti-Israel pundits. Anti-Israel activists like Tucker Carlson have championed the idea that the attack was a false flag operation by Israel, while pundits like Nick Fuentes have claimed that Israel was trying to keep its upcoming troop movement a secret. Massey reflected some of these views in his remarks, referring to several survivors who have sharply criticised the government's investigations. Massey said none of these distinguished men think this was an accident. They think it was an intentional murder by the country of Israel, either as a false flag operation or because they simply didn't want anybody observing what they were doing that day. He added, reiterating common conspiracy theories about the event. The USS Liberty Veterans Association, an organisation ostensibly set up to honour the memories of those killed and wounded in that attack, praised Massey's remarks in a post on X, saying it was a story that no other member of Congress will ever listen to. However, LVA has recently come under scrutiny for connections to far-right anti-Semitic figures such as Matt Wakaluk and Stu Peters. Both men have expressed neo-Nazi views and suggested that US President Donald Trump should be targeted because of his support for Israel. Even Philip Turney, president of the LVA and a USS Liberty survivor, has appeared on the far-right platforms often posting openly anti-Semitic content, claiming that the Jews control global affairs, manipulate Trump, and buy the loyalty of members of Congress. In addition, the LVA media manager John Dixon previously hosted a podcast which openly repeated neo-Nazi and anti-Semitic content in 2025. The LVA invited Peters to speak at its June reunion. Peters has documented spreading multiple anti-Semitic and anti-Israel conspiracy theories and has even referred to the final solution, the Nazis' term for their plan to exterminate the global Jewish population, on his broadcasts. The group withdrew the invitation only after the hotel house in the event barred Peters from its premises. LVA ties to openly anti-Semitic individuals raised questions about the organisation's intentions in continually revisiting the attack and calling for additional inquiries. Conspiracy theories continue to gain traction, partly because of LVA members regularly discussing the incident in podcasts and other platforms, and partly because the redacted government reports omit key details about the attack. For example, one of the documents, crew members destroyed some of the ship's equipment and logs, likely to prevent the SIGINT material from falling into the hands of another country. As a result, however, the ship's own communication logs were not preserved. Another US report claims that Israel pilots had only clearly identified the American flag after firing upon the USS Liberty. Israeli reports found the requests for clarification about the ship's markings were not relayed to higher authorities, who might have recognised them as American. The ship allegedly did not receive the instructions to remain 100 nautical miles from the coast of the active war zone until after the Israeli attack. US and Israeli reports found several gross errors committed by both sides in the attack, but found no evidence of willful intent to sink an American vessel. However, intent is central to how the USS Liberty story is often framed on platforms promoting anti-Israel and anti-Semitic viewpoints. What with the intent, Israel is portrayed as sneaky, convincing, and acting in bad faith, in contrast to supporters who describe Israel as an outstanding US military power. Without such intent, the Liberty incident becomes one among dozens of friendly fire cases involving US forces and allies in the decades before and after the war. Shalom, Maranatha, and Hallelujah.